I have long possessed a peculiar kind of mind reading. I can hear the inner voices of people who don't love me. Because of this ability, I can effortlessly tell when someone's affection for me is a sham. I can cut myself loose from fake sisters in an instant and remain unmoved even when a long-admired crush confesses. Even when buying durian, I can pick the one with the most flesh and sweetest aroma by listening to the vendor's inner voice. I can hear every thought they have as clear as day. So to avoid a constant din in my ears, I also steer clear of making eye contact with strangers in my daily life. But when I first met Simon, the whole world felt so quiet that only our clear voices remained. "Hello, may I get to know you?" There were no inner thoughts. When our eyes met, I could read Simon's mind. "Hello." While Simon was pursuing me, the voice in my ears was simple and pure. I believed he loved me. So we fell in love, dated, and moved on to talking about marriage. For 2 whole years, I had never read his inner voice. But on the eve of our wedding, I suddenly found myself able to hear Simon's thoughts. Because of the wedding, Simon had been especially busy lately. His family was well off, and he had now successfully taken over his parents' position, independently running the DW family's financial company. With the wedding schedule, there were many things we needed to handle in advance, especially in the past 2 months. I have always been an independent woman, and I respect Simon's career as well. So, during this period, the number of times we met could be counted on one hand. But today, we were finalizing outfits, and thinking that this would be a rare moment together made a sweet feeling well up in my heart. When I arrived at the studio on time, he was already there trying on shoes. He stepped aside to instruct the staff on something, then took his phone, talking as he walked out, his words heavy with reassurance. I can understand his busyness. Running a company, after all, isn't easy. And besides, Du's family has more than one heir. We exchanged a knowing look, but Simon's voice suddenly rang in my ear. "Rachel should wear sneakers tomorrow if she's going to gate crash a wedding. Easier to run in. Rachel gate crash a wedding." I froze where I stood, staring intently at his mouth, making sure this was truly what he was thinking. Then for a moment, I didn't know how to react. Outside, it was the height of summer, yet a chill spread through my limbs and bones, paralyzing me. I could hear his thoughts now, and what that meant was plain as day. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw one of the staff, following his instructions, slip a pair of lightweight sneakers into the wedding outfit. Simon nodded at me, lifted his leg, and prepared to step outside. This was our unspoken understanding. He must have something important to attend to, but the words I had just heard in my ear weren't a lie, and I never misheard. My body almost moved of its own accord to follow him. Disbelieving, I hurried after him and called out, "Simon!" I couldn't wait to read more of his thoughts to understand what the man standing before me with the title of my fiancé was really thinking. Why, of all times, did his heart change on the eve of the wedding? My call made Simon pause as his foot was about to disappear into the back seat, but only briefly. He turned and hurriedly explained a couple of sentences, then told the driver to step on it and drove off. "Sorry, the client suddenly has an emergency. I have to get there." He was lying. Right now, what he was clearly thinking was, from the sound of the voice on the phone, I can tell Rachel's angry. If I don't placate her, she'll probably not let me go home again tonight. I've never been one to sit around stewing in resentment. Rather than let my mind run wild, I prefer to take initiative. I found an excuse and privately arranged to meet Simon's secretary, using my mind-reading ability to pry for more information. She was Simon's first love. Rachel is Mrs. Yu's illegitimate daughter. Mrs. Yu has never acknowledged her, so Rachel's position has always been awkward and tepid. Unfortunately, the Du family elders cruelly split them apart. Rachel, proud and unable to endure the humiliation, gave up on Simon and fled, leaving no trace. At first, Simon's love at first sight for me was simply because I bore a certain resemblance to Rachel in the eyes. Now that she's back, of course, he doesn't need me as a substitute anymore. And Rachel's return happened to coincide with the past 2 months, when Simon was overly busy. The logic was neat, airtight. Hearing such a story inevitably made me shake my head and smile helplessly. I never expected such a cliched stand-in trope could be applied to me. Rachel wanted to announce Simon's ownership by snatching the marriage end at the same time, avenge me for occupying the title of Mrs. Simon for so long. Simon also needed the occasion to prove his unwavering love for Rachel, to placate his petulant young wife, and to force the Dew family to acknowledge Rachel. And I and this meticulously planned wedding were nothing more than a piece in their little play. This world is one gigantic domineering CO romance. To be honest, I was so shaken I couldn't help swearing. That night, the lights in my house were still on. Clearly, the wedding was the next day, but I, busy packing my luggage, couldn't stand still for a moment. 2 hours earlier, I had already booked a first-class flight abroad. If everything's going to be chaotic, then so will I. If he, Simon, can have his wedding snatched by Rachel, then of course I can reciprocate with a little vanish-from-the-world wedding escape. Fortunately, my family had long since settled overseas, and they hadn't gone to great lengths to host relatives and friends there for this wedding. They only called the friends here at home with whom they were usually close. At the time, we figured both parents had already met when the families got engaged, so we could just hold another ceremony abroad and spare relatives and friends a hassle of language barriers. That plan happened to make it easier for me to run away from the wedding. Now, I briefly told my best friend Kelly my idea. She silently took the packed box from my hands, her face serious. I couldn't read her thoughts, and seeing her reaction, I had to ask, "Kelly, are you going to stop me?" Kelly rolled her eyes and snapped at me. "Are you insane? I brought you a burlap sack for fertilizer, sturdy for packing stuff." Oh, right. I forgot Kelly's family is in the pesticide business. On the wedding day, dressed in a reception gown, Simon and I welcomed guests who had come from afar. This time, Simon's inner voice was so loud it gave me a headache. Has Rachel arrived? I can finally be with Rachel. 3 years. I've waited 3 years for Rachel. She's finally going to be my wife. After this runaway wedding, Rachel will believe my steadfast heart. Won't she? I couldn't help shivering and glancing at Simon with a frown. He, however, showed no sign of it. As calm and gentle as ever, he still showed concern for me. "Hannah, you don't look well. Why don't you rest in the lounge for a bit? I'll take care of the guests outside, and you can make your entrance at the ceremony." That was fine. Actually, I didn't need an excuse to slip away. I agreed, intending to change from my little formal dress into something casual, and met Rachel by chance at the doorway. Thanks to our similar looks and my mind-reading abilities, at a glance, I almost recognized her immediately. I held down Kelly's arm. She was in a bridesmaid dress, poised to unleash a beating on the homewrecker, and pretended not to notice. "Your friend was Simon's side, right? Hurry inside. The wedding starts in a few hours." Rachel's smile froze. She seemed displeased at my familiar use of Simon's name, and her tone turned deliberately sour. "Miss Hannah, sorry we're a bit clashy today. If someone who didn't know saw us, wouldn't they think I'm the bride?" Rachel's insolent voice echoed in my ear. "Go ahead and laugh. In 3 hours, your groom will run away with me. Think you'll still be laughing then." I kept smiling, shook my head as if unconcerned. I told the waiter beside us to seat her. "Idiot. I've said it outright. Can't you see I'm here to cause trouble?" Having just brushed past, Kelly couldn't help but gripe to me. "Look at her haughty posture. It's unbearable." I didn't deny it. She sees me as a joke now. After all, Simon is prepared to have his wedding stolen by her. Then she'll get to claim lovers finally united and force the Dew family to acknowledge her identity right in front of me. The wedding venue wasn't far from the airport. When I sat in the departure lounge, the ceremony hadn't started yet. I stared fixedly at the time on my phone, waiting for the farce to begin. My phone vibrated continuously as Kelly excitedly flooded my screen with live updates. "Hannah, he really snatched her. He really snatched her. Damn. Having an affair and making a scene like some cowherd and Weaver girl drama. Truly shameless." Only 5 minutes had passed since the ceremony officially began when Kelly sent me a video from the wedding. According to the program, after Simon went on stage and the host told a cheesy, sentimental love story, it should have been time for the bride to appear. And Rachel was planning to crash the wedding at that exact moment. Rachel had deliberately worn the same reception gown as the bride, strode forward, and snatched the microphone from the MC on stage. Even as the audience murmured, she went on and on professing her love. Such brazen boldness brought tears to Simon's eyes. "Simon, will you come away with me?" The guests erupted in uproar, taking the groom on his wedding day. Wasn't this outright bride snatching? The most damning thing was that Simon, with a look of genuine emotion, nodded in agreement and walked to Rachel's side, entwining his fingers with hers. "I do." Rachel's swollen vanity was thoroughly satisfied. She even had the nerve to deliver an acceptance speech through the closed door to the bride, essentially saying she knew the bride fancied Simon, but that Simon loved her most and she hoped the bride would let them be. In the video, Simon was wearing a pair of sneakers that clashed entirely with his suit, and Rachel, microphone in hand, could hardly contain the smugness at the corners of her eyes. Rachel was probably dying to see me looking shattered. She must have even prepared the words to comfort me. "I hope Miss Hannah will bless this lovely story between Simon and me." Miss Hannah. The atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. After all, the person being exposed wasn't there, and without them, the whole triumphant show was just a clown's farce. "Miss Hannah, Miss Hannah?" Rachel called several times with no answer until the usher pulled open the big door. Behind it was no one, only a pure white veil tossed carelessly, symbolizing the bride's unknown whereabouts. The crowd suddenly erupted. Someone shouted, "Holy, did the bride run off?" In the quiet departure lounge, I suddenly laughed out loud. If they want to go through with it, fine. After all, some of the guests below were people I knew. If I ran off and stood them up, that would be my fault. So I might as well give them a free show and make them laugh. I looked at it and couldn't help but shake my head and chuckle. At that moment, the big screen displayed a block of text and a photo. In bright red letters, it declared, "Wedding cancellation statement. Because Simon cheated with the other woman, Rachel, I hereby decide to call off the wedding. Enjoy this little comedy. I hope you two lock yourselves together forever and never come out to hurt anyone else." Beneath it was thoughtfully attached a recent intimate photo of Simon and Rachel. Buzz Kelly sent me a message. Mission accomplished. Seeing that message, I posted the same statement on Twitter as well. It was also the last post from this account. The people on site instantly erupted. Who had time to laugh at me now? The bigger joke was standing on stage hand in hand, wasn't it? The bride had disappeared. Who would care whether Simon and Rachel ran off together? And Rachel, having just gone on stage to declare her love, looked especially ridiculous beneath the big red word cheating on the screen. What kind of heartwarming story? It was nothing but a fig leaf for infidelity and betrayal. Kelly gossiped like crazy, and within 2 minutes, she sent me another clip. In the video, no one paid any attention to the two stunned fools standing on stage. The crowd was in chaos, searching for my whereabouts. "Where's Hannah? Miss Hannah, where did she go? Where's the bride?" The phone's not answered. I have no idea where she went. Have you checked the lounge? Check the changing rooms, the top floor, everywhere. What are you standing around for? Move, move. Even Simon's usually stern-faced parents sprang up anxiously and ordered the staff to search for me, and the guests began to stir, too. No one paid any attention to the two people on stage. Even the MC was signaled to step down. Simon and Rachel stood on stage in awkward silence, looking at each other like monkeys shoved into the spotlight and unsure what to do with their hands. The funnier thing was that the audience was too busy hunting for me, the missing bride, to care whether they should leave. The romantic, thrilling runaway wedding scene Simon and Rachel had imagined was turned by my sudden disappearance into chaos reminiscent of old men and women at a supermarket entrance fighting over free eggs. The two of them just stood on the stage like that. This marriage, neither running away nor staying, felt right. If you ran, no one would care. If you didn't, no one would care either. When it was about time, I sent Kelly a message from another Twitter account saying I was about aboard, then briefly explained the situation to my parents, warning them not to disclose any of my private information. I put my phone on airplane mode, and Kelly settled snugly into first class, ready to enjoy the 10-odd hours of flight time. The moment we landed, Kelly's messages exploded in a frantic rush. It looked like the fallout from this would be wildly entertaining. I had only replied with the first sentence when Kelly, unable to contain herself, tapped a voice call to me. Haha, Hannah, that move of yours is ruthless. You wouldn't believe it. Port City is in an uproar. I won't even mention the DW family's relatives and friends who showed up. Plenty of them are big shots. The moment you ran off from the wedding, it was absolute chaos over there. Those two idiots stood up on the stage for a full 10 minutes, and nobody did a thing. In the end, they came down on their own. I almost burst out laughing watching them. Check the trending list now. The video shot straight to #1. Netizens are calling him the crazy groom and the crazy bride. That bastard even chased over to your villa earlier. When he couldn't find you, he was stomping around outside like mad. He kept pressing your doorbell like he was sending telegraphs. Beep, beep, beep. I was just about to slip away when he chased after me. That little bastard even had the nerve to ask me where I was. I said, "You've gone abroad." Nothing else. Too funny. And you wouldn't believe how fast he ran in sneakers. Just hearing Kelly laugh until she couldn't catch her breath told me how much Simon had been put through this time. He hadn't lost a marriage, but his face had been completely ruined. I wasn't actually surprised by Simon's reaction. For him to act like that, he counted on me for the sake of the D and Way family's reputations, not making a scene. If the marriage got stolen in the end, I would just have to swallow the loss in silence. After all, the Way family's businesses are overseas, so the DW family wouldn't suffer too much. It would even be an opportunity to pressure my parents, Edward and Margaret, into accepting Rachel as their daughter-in-law. After all, with things having come to this point, if I didn't admit it, standing there in front of so many guests, it would be terribly embarrassing. But Simon never expected that I would run away from the wedding. I literally tore that fig leaf off and stuffed it into his, and Rachel's mouths to disgust them. Let them be. Love is enjoyment. But marriage is endurance. The days of Cinderella and the prince aren't confined to the wedding day. What follows day after day are the grinding realities of rice, oil, salt, soy, vinegar, and tea. Once you've entered a poor alley, you'd better turn back in time. Escaping an unfortunate marriage, I definitely planned to set off firecrackers to celebrate. My parents had settled abroad years ago. Over there, the dating culture was liberal. People chased freedom and followed their hearts. Besides, Simon and I hadn't even gotten our marriage certificate yet. Legally speaking, we weren't even husband and wife. So, when I said I was coming back, my parents responded right away. They even arranged someone to pick me up the moment I stepped off the plane. When I climbed into the car, Kelly was still excitedly filling me in on what had happened next. The wedding fell apart in the end. Guests trickled out in ones and twos. Only the staff were left. Our family was on good terms with the death, so we stayed to soothe Margaret, who was so angry she could barely stand. Margaret slapped Simon right across the face. Honestly, he deserved it. Who didn't know you helped him climb up the ladder for his sake? Rachel is an illegitimate child, and to pull that runaway bride stunt in public, it's ingratitude. The dust lost face just as much as anyone. Edward didn't even glance at him. He just walked away. Only Rachel was left there sniffling and crying. When I left, I even saw Rachel clinging to Simon, sobbing and begging him to have a wedding. She probably thought she'd been utterly humiliated this time. I scoffed and said, "Those who humiliate others with themselves be humiliated. I'm looking forward to their wedding. If they really do get married someday, I'll sincerely wish them well." The destructive power of a first love lies in the fact that even she herself isn't enough. Simon will understand that truth soon enough. I thought Simon and I met at a charity gala. Although the Way family businesses have mostly been moved overseas, my parent and I are originally from a port city. My parents are quite old now, and long international flights are hard on them. That time when I returned, it was half a business trip and half a search for my roots. I didn't expect to first meet someone I mistook for my destined soulmate. Simon called out to me then, holding a glass of red wine. His smile was gentle, his bearing suave. Because of my mind-reading ability, I seldom strike up conversations in public settings unless necessary. The marketplace of fame and fortune is too noisy. When Simon called to me, the impatience on my face hadn't even faded. Yet strangely, I couldn't hear any of his inner thoughts. Perhaps because it was so quiet, I gradually found the patience to talk with him. Later, when he confessed to me, he was even bashful, not knowing where to put his hands and feet. The hand, holding the roses, trembled slightly. "Hannah, I will be good to you for the rest of my life." Our eyes met, but I couldn't read his thoughts, so I nodded. I believed Simon's promise and agreed to stay in the country and marry him. I never doubted that promise in that moment. But promises only ever count when there's love. To me, Rachel and Simon's love story was really the tale of longing and youth. Love that couldn't be. Rachel may not have been as perfect as Simon imagined, and Simon may not have loved Rachel as much as he thought he did. Love is most moving when it's the love you cannot have. Half a month later, just after I'd finished Professor Parsons' design class, I got a call from Kelly. "Remember that bastard who sent a wedding invitation the other day? I went over there today and thought some village was holding a banquet. Nothing like the lively pig-killing feast I went to in the north last time." Kelly was clearly a reporter working the gossip beat. She chatted on about this dramatic wedding. Edward didn't come at all, and lots of people skipped it this time. 2. Nothing like the one you had. The ceremony was held in the secondary hall, and Margaret was the only one there with a sour face. She drank the change of name tea with a cold expression. Don't even think about red envelopes. She still called her Miss Rachel. When she spoke on stage, she scolded Miss Rachel to behave, to know propriety, shame, and decency. You have to admit when the older generation uses their schooling to insult someone, it's really nasty. Rachel got so angry she threw the bouquet off stage. Simon had to comfort his mother and his wife at the same time. I laughed so hard I almost passed out. It made sense, really. Knowing Margaret, not holding the wedding would have been more her style. But she couldn't stand up to Rachel whispering in her son's ear, so she swallowed her anger and came anyway. But Rachel hasn't even married yet, and she's already offended her future mother-in-law. Can she still expect good days ahead? I also heard Rachel has been placing people into Simon's company recently. She's living easy once she marries. The Yu family recognizes her status, and their own business takes off. Relying on a big tree sure is comfortable. Thinking about how you worked so hard to pull resources for Simon, and now Rachel gets all the benefits. It makes my teeth itch with envy. My hands didn't stop flipping through project files as I chatted with Kelly on speaker. I'm not losing out either. I made my share from them. But Simon's life isn't easy either. He does have managerial authority, but the real decision-making power still lies with his father. They can't have the DU group end up taking the username, can they? Besides, he's not the only young person in the D family. But I know Simon's ambition. The company isn't a one-man show for him either. I suspect Rachel is the type to make decisions first and inform people later, plugging her own people into positions. Thanks to that wedding, our domestic partners know about the feud between Simon and me and have more or less leaked a few things to me. For example, the DU family has openly pushed Simon's cousin forward. The pressure is unmistakable. Caught between love and career, I figure Simon must be having a rough time. Kelly was clearly displeased with my remark. What's that supposed to mean? He's going to become a monk abroad. Now you're pitying his lot. So, are you planning to go cheer him up next? I curved my brows and smiled slightly, not delivering warmth. I'm thinking maybe I can use this chance to make a little profit. I thought you were all lovesick. Didn't expect you're a capitalist. But what I didn't expect was that 2 months later, I actually received a call from Simon. Hannah. Hearing his voice after so long made me shiver involuntarily. Simon. No, one of the professors never told me the client's name. Always say it was an old acquaintance. So it was you. As for Simon finding me, I was pretty indifferent about it. I moved abroad. I wasn't dead and gone. The circles at home and abroad are only so big, and there are no real barriers to business. Now, for Simon to track me down only meant he had to put in a little more effort. Hannah, his hesitating tone annoyed me so much I roll my eyes silently. I cut him off coolly. If there's nothing else, I'll just go over this project with you. Simon was clearly still wrapped up in his own emotions, dredging up the past. Hannah, I'm sorry about what happened back then. I know I hurt you badly, which is why you ran off to avoid the wedding and went abroad. I'm sorry. I do owe you an apology. I was silent for a moment, then sighed. Simon, have you gotten what you wanted now? There was a long silence on the other end. Simon's voice immediately sounded weary. I don't know. Rachel is so different from before. She's changed to the point where I almost doubt she's the Rachel I once loved. Sorry. I know I shouldn't disturb your life now, but I just suddenly want to talk to you for a bit. I went to a cocktail party today, and all of a sudden, I thought of the old days when we stood side by side. I snorted, not intending to continue what had been a fairly mild conversation. If Margaret knew you and I were still in contact, it wouldn't be appropriate. Cece, could you come here? Please introduce this project to Mr. Simon for me. I have something else to attend to. Excuse me. No matter how heart-stopping a first love is, with time it all turns into something clingy and mundane. The mosquito's blood that once tasted bland, once it's gone, suddenly becomes a vermilion birthmark. No matter how loved a person may be, they will yearn for the love they never received. As for Simon's repentance, I can only say quietly to myself, serves you right. I entrusted the follow-up of the project entirely to my assistant Cece. On the rare occasions when she was unsure, I would offer guidance, but I avoided direct contact with Simon as much as possible. I knew exactly what calculations Simon was making, but betrayal is one of those things. Once there's been a first time, I cannot possibly give him a second chance. Cece went back to the mainland on my behalf and successfully landed the project. She also brought back another piece of news. Mr. Simon asked me to tell you he's divorced. When Rachel started bringing people into the company, I already had a vague inkling. I just didn't expect it to happen so fast. Even Kelly was a little surprised when I messaged her. I only just found out, too. How do you always hear things so quickly? I curled my lip. He and I reconnected recently because of the project. He specifically had his assistant relay that to me. Kelly tooted twice and jumped in. Everyone can see Sim Zhao's intentions. But why won't this guy die and stay dead? Does he think he's something to you? A backup. Gross. But do you know why those two divorced? Rachel had Simon wrapped around her finger. She'd been married abroad to some rich foreigner and only came back because she couldn't get money from a lawsuit with her stepson. When Margaret found out, she was shaking with anger. Without hesitation, she shut the photo in Simon's face. You should have seen him. His face was so black it could drip. She'd been up to a lot of messy moves since getting married, and her relationship with Simon had grown increasingly cold. Once this came out, Simon had people draw up a divorce agreement the next day. Now they'd broken up so cleanly. I remember back then, Simon was ready to give up everything just to be with her. They'd only been married a year when they divorced. Thinking of the way he acted then, he probably feels ridiculous about himself. I suddenly recalled Simon telling me that Rachel changed. It struck me as comical. Maybe Rachel hadn't changed at all. She just no longer fit Simon's expectations. Once the novelty fades, true affection begins to surface. Apart from project-related interactions, Simon and I had no contact. Even when he sent emails or friend requests, I turned a blind eye selectively. He was good at falling in love with an imagined perfect person. Once it was Rachel, and now it was probably me. Let him have his illusions. I'd built a whole new life for myself. As for Simon, to me now, he is nothing more than an old, worn-out source, not worth mentioning. It wasn't until Kelly was preparing to get married that I returned to Hong Kong after many years. Also returning with me was my daughter, Lily. My husband is an overseas Chinese. When I came back, he was on a scientific expedition in Antarctica. Otherwise, he would have accompanied me to the wedding. After catching up with the Kelly sisters, Lily said she wanted to go play at the children's play area in the nearby mall. Thinking she had no playmates at home, I nodded and took her there. Lily was clearly very excited, practically jogging ahead, and I, in my high heels, was struggling to keep up behind her. In a moment of inattention, Lily collided with someone around the corner. I hurried over to check on her and to placate the situation. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The child is thoughtless. Are you hurt, Hannah? The voice sounded surprised and familiar. I looked up. Simon. To be honest, I only dared confirm it after a careful look. It suddenly occurred to me that this mall seemed to be under the DW family's name, so his appearance here wasn't strange. In both posture and bearing, Simon was very different from before, haggard and worn out. From a distance, he gave off the weary air of a 35-year-old who'd just been laid off midlife. It was worlds away from the radiant image I had of him. A flicker of surprise crossed Simon's face, and the corner of his mouth curved up. Long time no see. This is my daughter, Lily. Our eyes met, but this time I didn't hear his thoughts. I heard you were married long ago. I didn't expect your daughter to be so grown up. Lily spoke before I could. I'm sorry, Uncle. I bumped into you. Simon's expression froze for a moment, but in the end, he reached out and stroked Lily's head. He bent down and smiled as he spoke to her. It's okay, Lily. Next time, don't run so fast. Manager Wong, take Lily over to the children's play area to have some fun for a while. Hannah, a new cafe opened on the second floor. They brew the Robusta you used to love. Care to catch up? I nodded and said a few words to Lily. Actually, before we came back, Kelly had already used her loudspeaker to more or less explain Simon's situation to everyone. Rachel's affair had dealt a huge blow to Simon, and the D family subsequently turned to support his cousin instead. As for Simon, it could only be awkwardly cold-shouldered by the D household. Once the favored son of fortune, he had become a marginal figure. Lo was gone, his career ruined at an age when he should be in the prime of his life. A heavy, unsettling gloom clung to him. Hello, 1 Robusta and 1 Kana. Thank you. No, change my Robusta to a Vienna, please. Simon asked me with a smile. Switch tastes. I remember you used to dislike those sweet, cloying coffees. I shook my head. My husband always says Robusta has more caffeine, and too much upsets the stomach, so he kept changing it to a Vienna for me. After drinking it for a while, I grew to like the sweeter coffee. That's nice. I saw your wedding. Very romantic. Was it that famous castle in Switzerland? I happened to be on a business trip then, and stopped by to take a look. The D family had no business in Switzerland. I didn't call him out. I smiled and agreed, exchanging small talk like ordinary acquaintances. Would you mind approving my friend request? I set down my coffee cup and still smiled faintly at Simon. I'd rather not. I know what you mean, and you don't need to worry about it. Those things are in the past for me. Besides, at the time, it was clearly you who lost face more. I did love you, but I truly don't anymore. I have a happy family now, an affectionate husband, an adorable daughter, and someone living a whole new life won't be willing to touch the people who were wrong in the old days. Simon, what's missed is missed. Whether it's love or hate, it doesn't matter anymore. My too casual, breezy expression stabbed him. Simon's eyes were rimmed with red. When he turned back to find Lily, Manager Wong was holding a fairy tale book and reading to her with rapt attention. Only when I drew near did Lily look up and ask me, Mom, have you ever read The Little Prince? The fox was so good. So, why did the little prince choose a rose in the end? Because it's the rose he has tended with care, the one and only. Lily looked bewildered. I smiled and took her hand. Wait until Lily's a little older. Then you'll understand what Mommy means. Simon, who had been quiet the whole time, gave Lily a brand new copy of The Little Prince as we were leaving the mall. Through the car window, Simon and I nodded goodbye. In that moment, when our eyes met, I still couldn't read his thoughts. It was as if we had gone back to the first time we met. The car slowly pulled away, leaving the figure of the old acquaintance discarded behind. I cradled my daughter's soft body. This was my final act of vengeance toward him, a gentle and dignified exit. After this, memory would be the only way we met, and I would replace Rachel, becoming the unattainable lover in Simon's life, in his world. The love he could never have would not be a sudden storm, but the long dampness of a lifetime. He would be forever trapped in that moisture, stirring up furious winds and rains in every otherwise calm day. I had once been a fox and also that red rose, but now I am only the little prince whose journey has ended. My daughter held up the phone and leaned over me. Mom, Dad wants to talk to you. Go ahead.